right? The other type is inference question, right? Asking you to say what is the inference. So read all of this. Okay, let's say this case should have been only this, okay? If I get all information from this, which of the following is correct inference? Inference as in this statement can be called true based on whatever I see in the passage. So scientists do not work in noisy place, right? So therefore Emily does not work in noisy place. Okay, let's keep everything, right? Everything is irrelevant. So then I can have an inference that Emily is a scientist, right? It is a suitable relevance, right? Could be or is a scientist, because maybe it's not must be a scientist. Someone's, let's say even teachers like to work in silent place. Okay, we don't know, right? Emily could be a teacher, but just based on the given information, one of the better conclusion or inference I can make is this: scientists do not work in noisy place. Emily does not work in a noisy place, so maybe Emily is a scientist. Now this is what inference basically, conclusion sort of. The company X has developed a new product that causes users metal A, which is toxic to kids. In order to protect our kids, we need to ban the use of this product. So maybe if I go with an inference like company X developed a new product that uses metal A, which is toxic to kids. In order to protect our kids, we need to ban the use of this product. So for example, I can come up with inference like this. New product is used right by kids in large or in a higher frequency. Right, this maybe still not. New product used in higher frequency might affect kids, right? Higher frequency by kids will impact kids, right? Because the author is saying that it is toxic to kids. That's why if new product is used by kids a lot, right? New product used by kids in higher frequency will impact kids in the negative way, which is a correct, inference that I can make. So there is a slight difference between inference and assumption, okay? Have this clarity on this. So do not get confused with that, right? Assumption is that I can assume that kids use this product a lot, right? There's a difference between that and basically saying that new product used in higher frequency by kids will impact kids in the negative direction, which is sort of already made here. Toxic to kids is that point which will be satisfy this thing. This one is also a bit of confusion because we have already used this as assumption also. In the assumptions case, we said Emily could be a scientist or is a scientist is assumption. So is it an inference? In a way, maybe it's not a correct inference, to be very frank, because I would rather call it an assumption than inference, because using these two statements, what I can make is more like, right, scientists prefer to work in, silent places. This could be a decent inference because they do not prefer to work in noisy place. So I can say scientists prefer to work in silent place. Right, that could be a better inference. But it's okay. As I said, just make sure that you do not get confused with assumptions and inference. Let's get to question to clarify that. So in terms of purchasing power parity, rural households have more purchasing power than urban and suburban households at the same income level. Since most of the income urban and suburban households utilize for food and shelter can be utilized by rural households for other needs, right? So it's saying that rural households and compared to urban and suburban households at same income level, right? If let's say 10,000 is the income that I'm comparing, so rural versus urban, suburban, right, at same levels, these people have more purchasing power, higher purchasing power, because some of the income urban, suburban households utilize for food and shelter can be utilized by rural households for other needs. That means these people have more money saved compared to these people after spending on food and shelter. Assume that people out of 10,000 spent on food and shelter. So rural household maybe will only spend 3,000 on it, whereas these people have to spend 5,000. So hence the remaining is 7,000 and 5,000. So hence the people in the rural household has more power to spend than them, because these urban and suburban are spending more money on house. That's something that I can understand. So let's look at the inferences. All three types of households, urban, suburban, rural, spend more of their income on housing than other purchases combined. I cannot conclude this, or I cannot infer this, right? I only know that compared to rural and urban, suburban, rural spend less on houses and food than them. That's why they have more power to spend. But I don't know housing versus compared to other elements, which one is greater or larger, right? Rural households have lower housing and food costs than do either urban or suburban. This is correct, right? Than either urban or suburban. So that seems to be correct, right? As I said, rural are having more power to spend after spending on food and shelter compared to urban, suburban at the same income level, because they are spending less on house and food compared to them. So they will be left with more to spend compared to them. So that's why this seems to be the correct inference that I can make. The median income of suburban and urban households is generally more than that of the rural households. So, I mean, like, no sense, right? Could be correct statement, but then how would that be something I can infer? This whole statement is only, the passage only talks about if I compare rural households versus urban, suburban with same income level, right? These people have more purchasing power after spending on house and food because these guys spend less on food and shelter. That's sort of what I can conclude, but not about the median being higher here or here. The average rural households include more people than the average urban or suburban. Again, I cannot comment on this. I cannot conclude this based on, given information, right? There's no clue given which would give me the that classic or conclusion that households in rural have more average number of people than urban or suburban. So again, this is wrong. So this is the correct statement. So inferences, conclusions, you have to look at like that. From the given piece of information, which of these statements I can conclude. I should not use any other factual information or any other piece of information from outside the passage or outside the given information.